Cold rain fell over the crowded market on planet Vargos. The streets were full of strange alien races, loud traders and bright lights, but one small corner stayed dark and silent. There, inside an old metal cage, sat a young alien girl. Her silver skin was covered with dirt, and her torn clothes barely kept her warm. She hugged her knees tightly and kept her head down. No one noticed her anymore. She looked like someone the whole galaxy had already forgotten. Every few seconds she whispered the same words to herself. I'm broken. I'm worth nothing. Her voice was so soft that even the rain almost covered it. She had repeated those words for so many years that they felt true now. She no longer remembered the last time someone had spoken to her with kindness. She believed she deserved every cruel thing that had happened to her. Hope had left her heart long ago. People walked past her cage without stopping. Some aliens laughed when they looked at her. Others covered their noses as if she carried a terrible disease. A group of young traders threw small pieces of trash toward the cage and laughed loudly. The girl did not react. She simply lowered her head even more. Their insults no longer hurt because she had heard worse every single day. The old merchant who owned the cage stood nearby with crossed arms. He shouted at passing customers trying to sell the prisoners around him. Strong warriors, rare creatures, and expensive workers all found buyers before sunset. But whenever someone looked toward the girl's cage, the merchant quickly waved them away. Don't waste your money, he said with a cold smile. That one is useless. She is damaged. No one wants her. The girl heard every word, but she never argued. Deep inside, she believed the merchant was telling the truth. Many families had walked past her cage over the years. Some looked at her for only a second before turning away. Others asked about her price, then laughed when they heard her story. She had stopped expecting anyone to choose her. Waiting had become more painful than loneliness itself. As the evening grew darker, the market slowly became quieter. Shops closed one by one, and many cages became empty after successful sales. Yet the girl's cage remained exactly where it had been that morning. She closed her eyes and tried to imagine a place where nobody hated her. But every dream ended the same way. She always woke up inside the same cold cage, surrounded by the same empty silence. Suddenly, a strange sound echoed across the market. Heavy footsteps moved slowly across the metal floor. They were calm, steady, and confident. The noise was different from every other customer who had visited that day. One by one, traders stopped talking. Even the noisy machines became quiet. Something had changed, and everyone could feel it. The merchant looked toward the entrance and frowned. Several aliens quickly stepped aside, making a clear path through the crowded street. Whispers spread from one shop to another. Is that a human? Someone asked. Another trader looked nervous. Humans never come here, he whispered. They buy ships, weapons, and technology, not forgotten prisoners. The girl heard the word human, but she did not lift her head. She thought it made no difference. Humans, aliens, rich or poor, they were all the same. Nobody would ever choose someone like her. She quietly closed her eyes again and whispered, Please, don't look at me. I'm dirty. I'm broken. The footsteps stopped. Not beside the strongest warrior, not beside the rarest creature, not beside the richest prize. They stopped directly in front of her cage. For the first time in many years, complete silence filled the market. Every pair of eyes turned toward the broken girl, and the mysterious human standing before her. Nobody knew why he had stopped there, but everyone was about to find out. The human stood quietly in front of the rusty cage. His face was hidden under a dark hood, making it impossible for anyone to read his expression. The market became so silent that even the sound of falling rain seemed louder than before. Every trader and customer watched him without moving. No one could understand why a human had stopped in front of the most unwanted prisoner in the entire market. The old merchant forced a smile and walked closer. Sir, he said politely, you are looking at the wrong cage. This girl has no value. She is weak, sick, and afraid of everyone. I have better slaves for you. Strong fighters, skilled workers, even royal blood from distant worlds. This one is nothing but a burden. The merchant laughed. expecting the human to walk away like everyone else. The human did not even look at the other cages. His eyes stayed on the girl sitting in the corner. She was shaking as if she wanted to disappear. Slowly, she covered her face with both hands. In a weak voice, she whispered, "Please, don't come closer. I'm dirty. You should choose someone else." She truly believed that staying away from her was the kindest thing anyone could do. The merchant shook his head and spoke louder. "You see? She says the same thing every day. She has no spirit left. Nobody has ever wanted her, and nobody ever will. I was planning to throw her away after tonight." Some nearby traders laughed at those words, while others nodded in agreement. To them, the girl was no different from broken equipment waiting to be thrown into the trash. For several long seconds, the human remained completely silent. Then, without raising his voice, he spoke only 3 simple words. "Open the cage." His calm voice carried across the entire market. The merchant's smile disappeared instantly. Several aliens looked at one another in shock. They wondered if they had heard him correctly. No one had ever asked to open that cage before. The merchant cleared his throat and tried once more. "Human, you don't understand. If you touch her, people will laugh at you. She isn't worth even 1 credit. She has nothing to offer." But the human took one slow step forward. His voice remained calm, yet it carried a quiet strength that made everyone uneasy. "I wasn't asking," he said. "Open the cage." The merchant's hands began to shake as he unlocked the old metal door. The rusty gate slowly opened with a loud creaking sound. The girl became even more frightened. She quickly dropped to her knees and lowered her head until it almost touched the floor. Tears filled her eyes as she whispered, "I'm sorry. Please don't touch me. I'll only make your hands dirty." The human walked inside the cage without hesitation. He stopped only a few inches away from the frightened girl. The entire market held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. The girl closed her eyes, expecting another kick or another cruel insult. Instead, she felt something she had not felt in many years. A warm hand gently rested on her shoulder. No anger, no disgust, only kindness. The girl slowly opened her eyes in complete disbelief while every person in the market stared at the unbelievable scene. None of them knew that this single moment was about to change not only the girl's life, but the future of the entire galaxy. The girl stared at the human's hand resting gently on her shoulder. She did not move. Her body froze because her mind could not understand what was happening. Every person who had touched her before had done it with anger or cruelty. This touch was different. It was soft, careful, and full of respect. Her heart began to beat faster as tears slowly rolled down her dirty face. The human slowly knelt so he could look at her without making her feel afraid. He did not speak right away. He simply waited, giving her time to breathe. The girl finally gathered enough courage to raise her eyes. For a brief moment, she looked into his calm face. There was no hate in his eyes. There was no pity either. There was only kindness. Something she thought no longer existed in the galaxy. The old merchant became nervous. "Human," he said quickly. "Don't let her fool you. She is cursed. Every owner who took her returned her within days. She never smiles, never speaks, and never fights. She brings only bad luck." The traders around him agreed, repeating the same old stories. They wanted the human to leave before he made what they believed was a terrible mistake. The human finally looked at the merchant. His voice stayed calm as he asked one simple question. "Who told you she is cursed?" The merchant blinked in surprise because no one had ever questioned the story before. He opened his mouth but could not answer immediately. The truth was simple. He had only repeated what others had told him many years ago. Nobody really knew where the story had started. The girl heard those words and felt something strange inside her. For the first time, someone was asking questions instead of making judgments. She whispered, "Please, don't argue because of me. They're right. I only bring trouble." She lowered her head again, afraid that the human would soon believe the others. Deep inside, she expected him to walk away like everyone else had done. Instead, the human reached into his coat and took out a clean white cloth. Without saying a word, he gently wiped the dirt from the girl's face. The crowd gasped in shock. No one had ever seen anyone treat her with such care. The girl closed her eyes as warm tears continued to fall. She could not remember the last time someone had cared, whether she was cold, hungry, or hurt. An old alien woman standing near the market entrance quietly whispered, "That human sees something we cannot." Her words spread through the silent crowd. Some traders looked confused, while others looked frightened. The merchant began to feel that this was no ordinary customer. There was something different about this human, something calm yet powerful, and it made everyone uneasy. The human carefully helped the girl stand on her weak legs. She almost fell, but he gently supported her before she touched the ground. Then he looked directly at the merchant and said, "Tell me her name." The merchant looked down in embarrassment before answering in a quiet voice, She doesn't have one anymore. Everyone stopped using it years ago." The human remained silent for a moment. Then he looked at the frightened girl and gave her a warm smile. "Everyone deserves a name," he said softly. The girl stared at him in complete disbelief. At that very moment, she realized this human had not come to buy a slave. He had come for a reason far greater than anyone in the market could imagine. The market remained silent after the human's words. Even the wind seemed to stop for a moment. The girl looked at him with confused eyes, unable to believe what she had heard. She had forgotten her own name many years ago because no one had used it for so long. Hearing someone say that she deserved one made her heart ache in a strange way. It was a feeling she could not explain. The merchant quickly forced another smile. "Human," he said, "if you really want a servant, I can show you better choices. This girl cannot even stand without help. She is weak, scared, and useless. She will only slow you down." The merchant pointed toward another cage where a tall alien warrior stood proudly. "That one is worth your money. Leave this broken girl behind." The human slowly turned toward the merchant. "I didn't come here looking for the strongest," he said calmly. "I came here looking for someone who had been forgotten." His words spread through the market like a cold wind. The traders stopped whispering. Some lowered their heads in shame while others stared at the human with disbelief. None of them had ever thought about the girl that way. The girl felt fresh tears fill her eyes. She took one small step backward and shook her head. "Please," she whispered, "don't waste your money on me. I don't know how to fight. I don't know how to work. I will only disappoint you." Her voice trembled with fear. She believed she was protecting him from making a terrible mistake. The human looked at her gently and smiled. "You don't have to earn kindness," he said. "Kindness is given because someone needs it." The simple words hit the girl's heart harder than anything she had ever heard. She had lived her whole life believing love had to be earned. No one had ever told her that she mattered simply because she existed. Without saying another word, the human reached into his pocket and placed a small credit chip on the merchant's table. The merchant's eyes grew wide when he saw the amount. It was far more than the girl was worth in the market. The nearby traders gasped in surprise. One whispered, "He paid 10 times her price." Another quietly asked, "Why would anyone do that?" The merchant quickly handed over the ownership papers with shaking hands. He was happy to make such an easy profit, but deep inside he felt uneasy. The human did not even look at the papers. His attention remained on the frightened girl. To him, she was never a product to be bought or sold. She was simply someone who needed help. The human carefully removed the heavy chain from around the girl's wrists. The metal fell to the ground with a loud clang that echoed through the market. The girl stared at her free hands in complete shock. She slowly rubbed her wrists, almost afraid the chains would return. For the first time in many years, she felt the weight of freedom. Just as the human turned toward the market exit, a loud voice suddenly echoed from behind them. "Stop right there." Several armed security officers pushed through the crowd, their weapons already raised. The smiling faces in the market disappeared at once. The girl froze with fear while the human calmly turned around. It was clear that someone powerful did not want her leaving the market alive. The armed officers quickly surrounded the human and the frightened girl. Their black armor reflected the bright market lights, making them look even more dangerous. The crowd stepped back, leaving a large empty circle around them. No one wanted to be caught in whatever was about to happen. The girl's hands began to shake again. She believed they had come to take her back. The leader of the guards looked directly at the human. "Step away from the prisoner," he ordered in a cold voice. "She cannot leave this market." His words surprised everyone. A few minutes earlier, the merchant had called the girl worthless. Now the guards were acting as if she was something extremely important. The traders looked at one another, confused by the sudden change. The human did not move. He calmly stood between the guards and the girl. "I paid for her," he replied. "She is free." His voice was quiet, but it carried confidence. The guard leader shook his head. "Money is no longer the issue," he answered. "New orders have arrived. She must stay here." Those words made the merchant's face turn pale with fear. The girl slowly looked up at the guards. She did not understand what was happening. For years, nobody had cared whether she lived or died. Now armed officers had arrived just to stop her from leaving. "Why?" she whispered to herself. "Why do they suddenly want me?" Her question echoed inside her mind, but no one gave her an answer. An old trader quietly moved closer to another merchant and whispered, "Something is wrong. If she was truly worthless, the guards would never have come." More whispers spread through the crowd. People who had ignored the girl for years now stared at her with curious eyes. Some even wondered if the stories about her had been lies from the very beginning. The human noticed the fear in the girl's face. Without looking away from the guards, he spoke softly to her. "Stay behind me." She obeyed without thinking. For the first time in her life, someone was protecting her instead of using her. That simple act filled her heart with a small spark of hope. It was weak, but it was real. The guard leader slowly raised a small communication device. A red light flashed across the screen. Seconds later, a hologram appeared in the air. It showed an official symbol that very few people in the galaxy had ever seen. The crowd gasped in shock. Even the officers stood straighter when the symbol appeared. This order had come from someone with enormous power. The hologram displayed only one sentence. "The female must not leave planet Vargos under any circumstances." No reason was given. No explanation followed. The human silently read the message, then looked at the frightened girl beside him. He realized she was hiding a secret far greater than anyone had imagined. As the rain continued to fall, the human slowly clenched his fist. He looked back at the guards with calm determination. Deep inside, he made a promise that no one else could hear. Whatever secret the galaxy was hiding, he would uncover the truth, and no force in the universe would stop him. The real story was only beginning.